Is the United States turning to Venezuela for oil over Canada? The geopolitical chess game unfolding. Can you imagine a world where the United States, a country with vast oil reserves of its own, turns to Venezuela, a nation plagued by economic turmoil and political instability, for its heavy crude supply? Yet, that is exactly what is unfolding in today's global energy market. Once deeply reliant on Canada's oil sands, the U.S. is now shifting its focus toward Venezuela, sparking debates among energy experts and political analysts alike. But why is this happening? What has led to this unexpected turn of events, and what does it mean for the global oil industry? At the heart of this shift lies a tangled web of tariffs, geopolitical maneuvering, and economic necessity. Historically, Canada has been the most reliable supplier of oil to the U.S., with its Alberta oil sands fueling American refineries for decades. However, rising production costs, environmental concerns, and trade tensions, particularly under Donald Trump's administration, have begun to disrupt this long-standing partnership. With the U.S. imposing a 25% tariff on Canadian steel and aluminum, relations between the two allies have become strained, prompting American policymakers to seek alternative sources of heavy crude. And that's where Venezuela comes in. For years, Venezuela was one of the largest oil producers in the world, once boasting a daily output of 3 million barrels. However, due to economic mismanagement, corruption, and U.S. sanctions, production plummeted to below 1 million barrels per day. But things are changing. In recent months, Chevron has rapidly increased its presence in Venezuela, significantly boosting production once again. This resurgence comes as the U.S. government has eased certain sanctions on the Maduro administration, signaling a potential shift in diplomatic relations. Could this be the beginning of Venezuela's return to the global oil market? From a strategic standpoint, the move makes sense. The refineries along the U.S. Gulf Coast are specifically designed to process heavy crude, which Venezuela produces in abundance. While American shale oil is lighter and sweeter, refiners still require a steady supply of heavier crude to maintain efficiency. Traditionally, this need was met by Canada, but with trade tensions rising and costs increasing, the U.S. is now eyeing Venezuela as a more cost-effective alternative, but this shift is not without controversy. Canada has been vocal in its criticism of the U.S. for considering Venezuelan oil over its own. Canadian officials argue that by turning to Venezuela, the U.S. is undermining a long-standing trade relationship in favor of a country that has been politically unstable for decades. Foreign Minister Melanie Joly even warned that by relying on Venezuela, the U.S. risks becoming dependent on an unreliable supplier. The question remains, can the U.S. afford to alienate its northern neighbor in favor of a nation that has historically been at odds with Washington? Meanwhile, the political implications of this decision are equally complex. The U.S. government previously declared Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's regime illegitimate, recognizing opposition leader Juan Guaidó as the country's rightful leader. However, in recent months, there have been reports of secret meetings between Trump administration officials and Maduro's representatives, hinting at a possible reconciliation. Could this be a sign that the U.S. is willing to overlook past tensions in pursuit of economic gain? For Trump, the move is not just about oil, it's also about strategic leverage. By engaging with Venezuela, the U.S. is sending a strong message to Canada: accept our trade conditions, or we'll find an alternative supplier. This tactic, while effective, risks long-term damage to U.S.-Canada relations. Some experts argue that Canada has no choice but to maintain its oil exports to the U.S., given the deep economic ties between the two countries. However, others warn that if Canada feels threatened, it may seek to diversify its oil exports, looking to markets in Asia and Europe instead. Despite the geopolitical risks, Venezuela's oil industry is experiencing a resurgence. With Chevron's involvement, production is steadily increasing, surpassing the 1 million barrels per day mark once again. But the road ahead is uncertain. Venezuela's oil infrastructure remains in a state of disrepair, with refineries and drilling rigs suffering from years of neglect. Additionally, there is always the possibility that sanctions could be reimposed, halting progress altogether. the broader implications of this shift extend beyond North America. Other oil-producing nations, such as Mexico, Brazil, and Ecuador, are closely watching the situation unfold. If the U.S. continues to strengthen its ties with Venezuela, it could disrupt global oil dynamics, particularly within OPEC and Russia, both of which have vested interests in the Venezuelan oil market. China, too, has been a major player, providing significant financial support to Maduro's government. How will these countries react to the U.S. re-entering the Venezuelan oil scene? As the energy market evolves, the U.S. faces a difficult balancing act. On one hand, Canada remains a trusted ally with a stable political climate, but rising costs and trade disputes have made Canadian oil less attractive. On the other hand, Venezuela presents a more affordable option, but one fraught with political risks and uncertainties. The ultimate question is whether this gamble will pay off for the U.S., or if it will lead to even greater instability in an already volatile global energy market. One thing is clear: the global oil game is changing, and the United States is making moves that could reshape the industry for years to come. Will Canada concede to U.S. demands, or will it seek new trade partners? Can Venezuela sustain its oil resurgence, or will political turmoil once again bring its industry to a halt? And most importantly, will the U.S. bet on a politically unstable country over a longtime ally? These questions will shape the future of energy politics, and the answers may be closer than we think.